Hey there, everybody. How's it going? Welcome back to another awesome episode of On the Throttle with Jackie Van Ham. My buddy Josh Trocchi out here bringing you all of the breaking news going on out here, motorcycles and power sports, every single week. Huh, Josh? Bringing you all this awesome news out here. I have got a couple of great stories for you, a little bit of a follow-up from last week's story. We talked a little bit about the Dakar Rally, which is underway right now. It is one of my most favorite times of year. It's the beginning of AMA Supercross. It's Dakar Rally. There's some motorcycle auctions out in Vegas at the end of the month. The MVP is in Louisville in the next week or so. Anyway, it is just crazy hectic. Tons of great stuff going on. We're going to bring you all the news every single week like we always do. If you miss any of these shows, you can always go back out there on the interwebs and check out all of our previous episodes, all 115 of them, because they live out here on the internet forever and ever and ever over on our YouTube page or on our MPN Facebook page as well. Now, for today's program, I have gotten my neck of the woods, as I mentioned. I've got a little bit of a follow-up, the first couple of rounds or first couple of days going on over at the Dakar Rally. And then I'm also going to be talking about the folks at Harley-Davidson have announced their 2024 models. Or have they? Josh, what you got going on in your neck of the woods?
I'm all electric and all small this week. But as you would figure, it's all kind of off-roadish. Imagine that.
I was gonna say, have we traded places here? Right, e-bike stuff is my bag. What's going on? Well, I'll be really curious to see what you've got to be talking about over in e-bike land, but we're all gonna have to wait for his stories, my stories, all these awesome stories after this word from our sponsor. All right, so for my first story for today, I'm going to be talking a little bit about the Dakar Rally, more specifically about Team Red. That's right, the folks over at Honda and how their rally is going so far. And a little bit of a note on top of last week's show, I'd mentioned that it's the beginning of AMA Supercross. A1 was just this past weekend. Hooray! I was mistaken, however. I thought the folks at Triumph were running. They are not. They are not running until the Eastern races. They are not out on the West. They are only on the East. So they will not be participating in Supercross until February 3rd, if I have that correctly, the very first round of the Eastern classes placed in Detroit. So if you've been following the show, you know Josh and I talk an awful lot about the motorcycle Supercross scene going on over at Triumph. So I wanted to make sure to go ahead, a little note in today's program. But let's go ahead and jump into today's story. I'm talking a little bit about 2024 Dakar and, of course, the folks over at Honda who, spoiler alert, are absolutely crushing it over there. Let's jump into the story. I went ahead and grabbed some of these notes from our parent website, which is motorcyclepowersportsnews.com. If you have not checked it out, click on over. We've got tons of great articles going on over there as well. With the 46th edition of the Dakar Rally set to kick off, which just did, on Friday in Saudi Arabia, the reigning FIM manufacturer's world champion Monster Energy Honda squad fields a strong 6 riders, including 2 from the U.S. They are Ricky Brabec and Skylar Howes. Let's go ahead now and jump into Skylar Howes and Ricky Brabec. They both been out there. I think that we're on day 4 now. Skylar Howes had a really, really rough start. He had a really pretty impressive, but not catastrophic crash right out of the gate during the prologue, but he's managed to catch up. He has made up time. He's doing really well. Brabec is doing great. Kind of an interesting side note, Mason Klein is aboard a Cove, Josh, and is having a really outstanding run out there on the Cove. Cove also is going to be showing a bike at AIM Expo. I'm super excited to see that. And then now the most recent update from the folks over at Honda, Monster Energy Honda team, as far as the Dakar goes. On the 4th day of Dakar 2024, the Monster Energy Honda team riders made their mark on the first part of a marathon stage as they ventured from Al Duwadami to Al Salamia. Making the trek into the heart of Saudi Arabia, they'd cover a variety of terrain, including soft dunes and stony tracks, which required a high level of navigation to make sure they got to the finish unscathed. Second place finisher Ricky Brabec put in a fantastic ride to end the day, just over a minute behind stage winner Kevin Benavides. He kept his 3rd place in the overall standings and, more importantly, took time out of the overall leader, Ross Branch. Adrian Van Beveren was disappointed with his result yesterday after a couple of navigational issues, but today saw him up amongst the front runners on a much happier day for the Frenchman as he mastered the conditions for third. Skylar House also spent most of the day in the fight, and despite stopping to assist Hero Motorsports Team Rally's Sebastian Bueller after he had a crash, time spent at Bueller's side was given back to the American. Woohoo! Look at that. A huge positive fourth place was his result, just 6 seconds behind Van Beveren. After his stage victory yesterday, Jose Nacho Cornejo was faced with the difficult task of being first off the line to cover the 438-kilometer test. Pairing up with Quintanilla early on saw them both take advantage of the bonuses on offer for leading the way, a stage which really put them through their paces mentally as Cornejo took sixth with his fellow countrymen just 1 place behind. The standings currently, right now, are looking like this. Kevin Benavides aboard a Red Bull KTM is in 1. Ricky Brabeck aboard, of course, a Honda 2. Adrian Van Beveren aboard a Honda 3. Skylar House aboard a Honda 4. Notice a trend here. Josh Branch aboard a Hero of all bikes is 5. Jose Ignacio Cornejo, also known as Nacho, is a Monster Energy Honda bike. Pablo Quintanilla is also a Honda bike in 7. And that is going to be your current standings going on out at Dakar Rally. All sorts of amazing stories go on there all week long. Make sure you click on over to all of their social and follow along. There is tons of racing, tons of stories, just incredible scene going on over there. I love following it. Josh, what do you think about what's going on the first handful of days out at Dakar?
I always say, like with Skylar House, first off, no matter what, he's got that mustache, so he's just the winner. To me, I mean, when you saw what happened to him in the prologue, I mean, it busted his road book, which that is basically you're running without a map at that point. Mason Klein, unfortunately, now is back in the low 100s, though, after an oil hose failure. And what's difficult about this is this is one of those things that sucks because it can all come down to a $10 part. And that is, he was running top 10 for a very long time, but now is back. What's interesting is they do use, so these riders obviously aren't allowed to use GPS, but they do have GPS trackers on them. So when they do stop to help other riders, they're encouraged to do so because they get that, they see that the time that the rider has stopped, they give them that time back and a little bit extra to account from them slowing down, getting out of the groove, things of that nature. So to me, I think it's a great, it's well run. So that way you don't have to think, oh, hey, that guy's laying there. You just know you stop and help no matter what no matter what your race situation is, you stop and help because you're not going to get penalized for it. And that to me is just, that's the right way to do this, especially as remote as these folks are.
Yes, I did see some of the images from that crash, the gentleman on the Hero bike, and then I did also see Skylar stop and help him out and lend assist until actually the rest of this Hero team caught up, and then they also assisted their rider. I love the good sportsmanship note on the end of this. I honestly didn't know that they granted that time back. I thought people were just being gracious, but man, it totally makes sense because this is a dangerous race. I can't stress that enough. You are out really in the boondoggles. You are out on your own. This is a huge area. You can wander off. You can get terrifically lost. There's a lot going on out there for sure. I also wanted to touch on the fact that I thought it was really interesting that is it Mason Klein, who was aboard that Cove, the bike had some sort of trouble in customs and it landed literally like 2 hours before the race start. Yeah, and he just had to jump on it and just send it, and he placed first in the prologue without ever riding this bike before in his life, with no training, no tuning, no tweaking, no nothing, just jumped on it and ran. I thought that was fantastic. So anyway, that's what's going on right now at the Dakar Rally. Make sure you go follow along over at the Dakar websites or on their social media. Josh, what you got going on for your first story?
Speaking of riding out in the middle of nowhere, the woman's name is Sinje Gottwald. She just did the first solo unassisted motorcycle crossing of Africa, which to me is like, holy cow. It was a 124-day journey. As you see right here, that yellow line on that map is the route that she took. 1,300 kilometers, because that's what they do over there. For us over here, that is about 8,078 miles. It was Spain to South Africa. No support vehicles, no backup bikes, no generator, no nothing. Just all the stuff you see in the photo right there. There's all sorts of challenges that she faced. I mean, weather, terrain, a big one, charging. Another one we look at, dehydration. Ouch. So it was the CALE is the bike, the AP version. It has 7.8 inches of suspension travel. It has a 40-mile range per battery. Now, she hauled along an extra battery and a couple of chargers. So she had 2 batteries, 2 chargers, a couple of spare parts, a laptop in case there was software updates that she needed or needed to do some diagnostics along the way, some basic tools, and a camera. She would go about 50 kilometers, swap batteries, and then recharge both of them. So that way she still had a little bit of reserve in the first battery, recharge both of them, and then continue on. She would get about 200 kilometers a day, which is pretty cool. Obviously, this is Africa. There are some remote areas. There she is, proudly standing next to a sign that has a bunch of stuff on it that I mean, I'm assuming those are all kilometers in that, but I have no idea where any of those places are, which tells you how remote it is. That being said, finding charging was sometimes a difficult thing. Now, this will plug into a standard 110 outlet and get a full charge in about 2.5 hours. So that was an advantage of that. So, but she said cars overtaking like super closely. They acted like she wasn't even there. There's a couple of minor low-speed crashes. The cool thing is that the advantage that this bike has, it is 176 pounds with a battery in it. Obviously, with her and the stuff on the back of it, it's more than that. But this is very lightweight, and it kind of has to be in order to have the range that it does out of that battery. Minimal maintenance. She's like chain, lube and adjust, occasionally a minor fix here or there. But that's really about it. So, like I said, started in Spain, ferried to Morocco, ended up with a blown fuse like right after the ferry, was able to get through that, kind of went through Marchuana and Senegal, took in some of the Paris-Dakar Rally terrain, hit some muddy jungle. I mean, Ivory Coast, Ghana. She had a 24-hour border wait to get into Ghana. Cameroon, Angola, South Africa. That is a long, long ride. To me, the thing that I think is so cool about this is this shows that, yes, if you've got that little bit of time to stop for a sandwich every once in a while, and can find some electricity, boy, a bike like this can get you just about as far and wherever the heck you want to go. To me, this looks like a muddy trek that you definitely do not want to drop the bike down in. But I mean, I know there's other sandy areas and stuff like that. Sounded like she experienced all sorts of terrain, all sorts of roads. All these countries have everything from, I mean, paved freeways, which obviously on this bike, probably not ideal on, to roads like this that are basically goat trails that trucks drive on. Interesting time to me. I think this once again shows this proof of concept. With a couple of swappable batteries, you can go a long, long way. Jacqui, are you thinking of trying this trip yourself?
Oh my gosh. If for whatever reason Cake wants to send me, I would do this in a heartbeat. It looks absolutely fantastic. This scratches all my itches. This is inappropriate motorcycles doing inappropriate things, things that you shouldn't be doing with them. She's accomplishing it. I love this. That's wonderful. This is such great PR for the folks at Cake. I do agree with you saying, the limits of the e-bike are slowly getting stretched, and maybe this will open people's minds up a little bit more. Yep. But to be fair, she was only doing 200 kilometers a day. That's not as far as a lot of like the real, mile eaters and iron butt folks. That is not the kind of mileage that they look to knock down. No. But I mean, who says you got to go around, Africa or America fast? Maybe slow down. Maybe see some stuff. Maybe this is the right way. Maybe she's got the right idea, to just
she can
cruise
see the
slowly
stuff
through it and actually
hear
see
it
stuff.
because she's on an e-bike too, so she can hear it also.
Hear it.
Big difference.
Big difference. Well, high fives. That is an incredible ride. I'm grateful she was okay and made it through all relatively unscathed. Yep. And high fives to the folks at Cake. That's wonderful, and I love that bike. That's awesome. Now, for my next story, I was going to chat a little bit about the fact that Harley-Davidson seems to have launched or let word out, or however you want to phrase it, what their 2024 lineup is going to look like. Or have they? I'm going to have that story, and Josh is going to have his second story. But first, we've got another trailer for this excellent web series that we shot just about a month ago. And this is an awesome road trip. I'd call it the best dang motorcycle road trip ever. From Ohio all the way out to Las Vegas, we had adventures, we had laughs, we had food, we had off-road riding, we had side-by-sides. We did everything, and it was wonderful. And we've all cut it and edited it. And by we, I mean Patrick back at the office. I've cut it and edited it into a heck of a web series. The first episode just came out this past week. Make sure you go check it out. It was really, really good. And I've got a little trailer for it. So why don't we check it out?
We traveled to Farmington, New Mexico, a true playground for the power sports community. While we were there, we stopped at a shop that focused on cars, Jeeps, and off-road trucks. But also, they had a fun surprise for us.
I am so excited about side-by-side day with you.
We're just ready to go have some fun. It's one of the most beautiful places in the country. We get to some places where you can see over 100 miles. What are you looking to do? What do you want to do? If you're looking for high adrenaline, good, solid day of wheeling, we got Chokecherry Canyon and we hit the trails.
When I can't see it anymore, when I get nervous. Oh, yeah. This is absolutely gorgeous. That drop was a real fun time. I swear I wasn't screaming. That wasn't me, her. Oh my God, this is cool.
It's a good day. It's not a roll over and die sort of thing. It's a go out and have a good day, come back and have something to talk about.
As promised, Josh, there was plenty of laughs, plenty of riding, plenty of good times, maybe some swearing. All sorts of amazing things happened. It is all in celebration of AIM Expo, which is coming up in February in just about a month or so. We're celebrating AIM Expo by doing this road trip from Ohio out to Las Vegas, which is where AIM Expo is going to be held. Kind of an idea of like what you could get into if you wanted to go across America to attend the show. A huge thanks again to Bear and his his Jeep and side-by-side rental at Farmington, New Mexico. It was an excellent experience. We had such a ball, and it was beautiful, beautiful country in Farmington, New Mexico. Absolutely top-notch. Tons of off-road motorcycle riding out there as well, and I am definitely planning on going back to go do that. Now, for my second story for today, Harley-Davidson has updated its website and has let loose with some information about what their 2024 lineup is going to be. Now, however, before we get too deep into this story, Harley-Davidson for the last handful of years, particularly since COVID time, they've been doing a digital launch in January, and that's when they release a handful more of their more special machines. The CVOs have a tendency to show up then. Bikes that are kind of new to the lineup have a tendency to show up then. But the website update is a pretty good indicator of where they are headed and what they are going to be putting out for 100% certain. because it's on the website, so it's real. It's not a unicorn. So let's go ahead and chat a little bit about what showed up on the website just this past week. And this is the 2024 lineup, according to the Harley-Davidson website. Now, the slide on your screen right now, you can see they want you to go over to harleydavidson.com and get yourself signed up. They will send you a gentle email reminder with a login link that'll take you directly to the digital launch when it happens on the 24th of January at 10 a.m. Central Time. They want you to go over and log in and do all that jazz. I will. It's always a really nice presentation. I like to check it out. So I will be checking it out on the 24th. But here's what I really want to talk about was a handful of the motorcycles that they are showing on their website currently. So let's go ahead and chat about it a little bit. With the new year usually comes new model announcements. Like I said, Harley-Davidson case, the company is revealing only its carryover bikes in the latest release. In fact, Motor Company is practically playing down the news of its 2024 lineup this time around. Perhaps it's because the 2024 list is more spare this year. Or maybe it's the fact that there are no changes to the bikes in question. But it's probably due to the fact that Harley-Davidson is already set to have a bigger reveal of its new models, as I already mentioned, including the CVO on January 24th. So here's what I wanted to chat about. So this is going to be, they're only showing 3 machines currently in their Grand American Touring segment. This is it. This is all they're showing. So for a company that is known for its huge Barca Lounger go across America tour barges, this is kind of a shock for me, the fact that these are the only 3 things that they're showing for their Grand America Touring. Now, if you want to show that next slide for me, Miss Ashley, I had a couple more up here. There was no huge surprise to the cruiser category, so I left that alone. It's got the Nightster, it's got Sportster, all that jazz. What there was different, though, that really stood out like a huge red flag, as in the red flag on your screen right now, or sore thumb, however you want to phrase it, is the fact that the Pan America is the only Pan America listed. In previous years, Pan America has had several different versions of it. There was kind of like a base model, there was a special. The one on your screen right now is the special, and it's the only one that they're looking right now to carry forward. So it makes people wonder, did the base model just not really sell because the special version had the options that the client really, really wants? Did they listen to the market and just kind of kill the base model? That is one belief. A second interesting theory that I think is much more entertaining in my mind is the fact that this also has a 1250 written on the side of it. This is one of the very first, if not the first time, Harley-Davidson has done that in a very, very long time. They normally do not paint their tanks or their shields or their fairings with the displacement of the machine. They'll stamp them on the engine for sure, but to paint it on the side is making a lot of folks wonder if there's going to be a totally different version of the Pan America coming. The 975 engine that was released a handful of years ago, it was guaranteed at that time to go into several other bikes. It's when they were doing the Bronx, and they were doing all these cool kind of custom-looking bikes, naked-looking bikes. A lot of those bikes got scrapped when they went back into this like reconstructing years right now with Mr. Jochen Seitz at the helm. So the thought process is this. Is the 975, the baby Pan America, what's coming? Is that why they killed the 1250 base model? That way there's a little bit better differentiation between the two Pan Americas. Very interesting. I think that is something that would be very smart. I, for one, would definitely be looking out for it, and I'd be very, very excited to see it. Josh, what do you got to say about all this news going on? Well, some of this news going on over at Harley-Davidson.
It's interesting with obviously the Pan America is one that I've been keeping an eye on just from what it's done. And I haven't seen as many of those out on the road as I've expected. So it could go either way. I mean, I don't know. What's interesting about it is that when you look, this is in a space with the Adventure 1290R. It's in a space with the GS 1300 now. When you look at what those bikes bring and the heritage that those bikes have, those companies are able to build off of that heritage. Harley has not. So that's part of it. And I wonder if it was a wise move to say, look, we're going full boat big. Let's go premium to bring people into the market rather than let's start with something in the middle and bring them up. Who knows? I don't. Obviously, we could shake up our magic 8-ball and see what happens with that. The fact that there's not a huge number of models on the site is interesting. I don't know what they're going to come out with. I think they're going to come out with something that's going to be like, hey, look, they could use the Suzuki with the DRZ thing with like, hey, new graphics. Or they could be like, hey, look, it goes one of three ways. It gets A, there's new fancy graphics. B, there's some new models. Or C, they're trying to trim down, which to me, from a manufacturing standpoint, to me, that makes sense. Trim down to what sells and what can bring new people in. I think that's what they need to do. It'll be interesting to see what happens on the 24th.
Yeah, I agree with you. And it is actually what they have been doing over the last handful of years. They have absolutely been trimming the fat and narrowing it down. Jochen Zeitz has made several public statements about that fact. All of the like kind of special ops projects that were floating around, 5-6 years ago were just immediately put the kibosh on. All of that went away. Anything weird, anything e-bike, anything out of the box, all got scrapped, and he really wanted to just really narrow down and focus on this core customer, aka the larger profit margin bikes, which would be the big touring bikes, and slide on your screen right now, trikes. I know. So look at this. There's 3 different trikes in the lineup, and currently only 3 Grand America touring bikes in the lineup. I find that very fascinating. That leads me to wonder how big their trike business is. I'm not going to ding on trikes. They're expensive. They make lots of money. The market is aging out. They've got bad hips. They've got bad knees. It keeps them riding. So I understand the logistics of why versus the consumer going out and building one on their own. I just think that this is a little bit interesting. I think there's some interesting tea leaves going on for the folks over Harley-Davidson, but we'll stay tuned and I'll let you know what we find out on the 24th. Josh, what you got going on for your second story?
I'm going to go the total opposite direction of Harley. Once again, we are going to go electric and we are going to go small. And you know that I like to talk about weird brands like Sherco, Reju, GPX. Fantic is the one that we're going to talk about this week. So back at EICMA, they basically showed a concept of a supermoto that they may have coming, I guess I will say. And it's kind of interesting, and it started triggering a bunch of thoughts for me here. So with this, Fantic is known for their off-road expertise. They unveiled this Motard EV concept, and that's what you're seeing right here. Now, this is a smaller version, much smaller version, I guess I would say. But it's an exciting concept for a lot of cool reasons for this. It was shown amongst a lot of other electric things, which kind of shows how interesting the e-market has gotten, I guess I would say. This rings in around about 210 pounds, which would be about the equivalent of a 50cc two-stroke. It's around about what you would figure the size to be for a 50cc two-stroke. Kind of interesting. The cool thing about this is it would be classified as a moped. So it would have modest power for beginners. It would be drivable on a car license across the pond, not here in the US. But that opens up that market. There's still a prototype. It's still kind of in that concept phase. They're saying further testing is needed. But they've had the Isimo concept, which kind of quickly became a reality, which I find very interesting. The big thing about this, so with this being a Motard type bike, I can see this thing selling like mad. And for a number of reasons. First off, if you can ride it in some European countries without a license, oh my God, people will just buy it like hotcakes. Second off, here in the US, in a lot of cases, if you have a pit vehicle, most of those need to have a license plate on them. Ding, 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 ding. This can do that. On top of that, the other thing that I see, and I am so surprised that we aren't seeing more of it yet, I realize the market is much smaller, with the popularity of the Stark Varg and how that thing is just lighting up motocross tracks, and how that has suddenly been disallowed by the FIM. We won't get into the politics on that, but Stark built that according to the FIM rulebook, and they said this thing is allowed. There's no way in here that you don't say that this isn't allowed, but yet yes. So we won't get into that. But what I see here is that the possibility of a Motard electric bike to me is super awesome because of the fact the type of riding and the types of things that those bikes are used for lend really, really well to electric things. So to me, this is a concept. I'm pretty sure that you're going to like it as much as I do, Jacqui, but with it being a concept, I'm excited to see something like this come out, hopefully. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I love this. I think it's just super slick. It doesn't surprise me that it looks fantastic. Fantic makes beautiful bikes. I love that you know Fantic for the off-road bikes. I know Fantic for their cafe racer style bikes. Those are the ones that Caballero. Those are the ones that always catch my eye because they're just beautiful. I mean, they just ooze style. The designers over here just do such a brilliant job. I love this. It does not surprise me to see companies putting out more and more of these. I love the like pearl clutching from FIM and some of the authorizing bodies who are just upset about e-bikes coming into the fold. Dude, you gotta come. It's the now times. It's 2024. Come on in. Like just give them their own class, give them their own separation thing, or just let them compete. It's coming. It's here. And these bikes are, as you already touched on, these bikes are so perfect in the dirt. I cannot think of a better, smarter, more clever weapon for things like supermoto and for dirt bike off-road. I think that they're just right on the money, right on time for it. So that's a yes for me. I would love to see this in person. I'm gonna have to cruise around on the internet and see if they're showing these or showing if there's a Fantic dealer here in the U.S. or Fantic showing bikes anywhere.
There's quite a few.
I'm not sure.
There's quite a few of them. They've actually got a decent dealer network, but this is so far just a concept. So I figured we'll shout it from the rooftops, and hopefully this concept actually ends up living.
Perfect. I'll keep an eye out. Well, the minute we hear about that news and all of the breaking news going on out here in motorcycles and power sports, we'll be bringing it to you here on the program. So make sure you hit notifications on. Thanks for hitting that like. Thanks for clicking and sharing and doing all the things and all of the stuff. And please do go and check out our very first episode of Two Wheels, Two Ways. It is live now here on the MPN website, as well as our Facebook page and our YouTube. You can find it all over. Make sure you go check it out. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. We will see you next week.